Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making an old-fashioned strawberry cobbler. Now this is another really old recipe. You can tell you have an old cobbler recipe if it calls for 2 cups of fruit. That's because that's the way fruit was preserved back in the day. They would either use the quart freezer cups. I know y'all remember the little square quart freezer cups in your granny's freezer, or they would can it in quart jars, and then when they wanted to make a cobbler, they would use that 2 cups of fruit. Now, for my taste, and I know the way that it was made when I was growing up, during fresh berry season, there was always extra fruit, or during fresh fruit season, whether it was berries or peaches or whatever it was, there was extra fruit in the cobbler. And for my taste, the more fruit in a cobbler, the better. But anyway, let's kind of get on with the ingredients here. Now, I have a little over 2 cups of frozen strawberries here. I've already got one of these in the oven that we'll be pulling out in a minute. I used fresh strawberries in it, and you can use fresh or frozen strawberries, whichever, it doesn't matter. And we're going to mix in 2 tablespoons of butter and a 1/4 cup of sugar and just a tiny bit of vanilla, and we're going to heat that so that we have a syrup in our berries. And then for the batter, we want 3/4 of a cup of milk, 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 1/2 cup of butter, and at least a teaspoon of really good vanilla extract. I want to get my berries started here because we're going to heat them, and then we're going to mix up the batter. Like I said, you want at least 2 cups of berries. I probably have close to 3. And for my taste, the more the better. I would put up to 4 cups of berries in this cobbler. And fresh or frozen, doesn't matter. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the berries in the pot, and we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to put in 1/4 cup of sugar. And this is going to make a really nice syrup on our berries. And I'm also going to put in a little bit of vanilla. Maybe just 1/2 teaspoon in the berries, because we're going to add some more in our batter here. And I want to tell y'all about this vanilla that I'm using here. We're just going to heat this until it kind of bubbles a little bit, and while we're working on that, we'll work on this. The first thing that we want to do is we want to cream together our butter and our sugar in our batter. And if you watch these videos on a regular basis, you know that I'm always looking for an easier way to do things. You do want this butter to be soft because, like I said, you're going to cream it. Oops, put that on there. And creaming butter with a big stand mixer, I mean this cup, we're talking about 1/2 cup of butter and 1/2 cup of sugar. It doesn't make much sense to clean a great big stand mixer to cream that. So I started thinking maybe this little hand blender here would do it. And these are pretty inexpensive. I'm sure they cost a little more now. When I got mine, they were about $20. They last a long time, and you can do a lot with these. It has a whisk attachment with it too. You can mix up pie crusts and everything with them. Anyways, stir my berries here. I don't want them to scorch on the bottom. And we're going to turn them down just a little bit. Okay. So you can cream your butter and your sugar with the hand blender attachment on these. Now, you can certainly do that by hand with a whisk, but that works pretty efficiently, pretty effortlessly, and there's not a whole lot to clean up. Just take your little spatula and kind of clean the thing off so all your butter's not left on it. I mean, that's the good part. We don't want to lose any more of that than we have to. Now, I cut my strawberries up to go in this. You don't necessarily have to, but I think if they're sliced or cut up a little bit, it makes it easier to eat, and it even makes it look a little bit prettier than the whole strawberries. These were already sliced. Like I said, they were frozen, and sometimes it's cheaper to get the frozen fruit than it is to get the fresh fruit, and frozen fruit works great in cobblers. And cobblers are a really easy recipe. So, you know, if you need something for an event and you don't want to spend all day in the kitchen, make a cobbler. They're easy, they almost always come out, and everybody loves cobbler with ice cream on it. Okay, so now to our cream, sugar, and butter, we're going to add at least a teaspoon of vanilla. And you want to use real vanilla. Let's see, I'm going to add a little bit more. Just maybe another quarter teaspoon. This vanilla that I'm using is called Vanilla Feeds Tomorrow. And a young man who is here local makes this vanilla in his house. And he donates 100% of the proceeds to help Second Harvest Food Bank to feed folks in the area who are less fortunate than he is. I'm going to put a link to his vanilla in here. He started this when he was only 15 years old. It was in 2020 when school was shut down and there were a lot more hungry people than there are even now because, well, that keeps falling. So much was shut down and so many people were out of work. And he was making, you can watch his full story. Like I said, I'm going to put a link to it. I have tried this. I love it. Definitely get you some. For an 8-ounce bottle, it is $30 on his website. This 8-ounce bottle that I bought in the grocery store, pure vanilla extract, is up to $38 now. And there's no tax because he's 501c3. And this is better. He seals it up in a jar very similar to the commercial jar, and you can see this right here. That is, I mean, that's the safety seal that I peeled off, and that's the vanilla there, the extract, and it smells so good. So definitely check out that link. So this young man, he donates, like I said, 100% of the proceeds to Second Harvest Food Bank. I'm going to turn my strawberries off and just let them sit here because we've got a nice syrup in them, and finish mixing this up. And he also has a link where you can donate additional money if you'd like to, but he will ship this vanilla anywhere in the country, so you can get some. If your milk is at room temperature, it works much better. Even warmed a little bit, it makes it easier to mix, because if it's cold, it's going to lump your butter back up. But I'm sure his mother helps him a little bit. But he tells his story, and he was making dessert for his family, and he was adding the vanilla extract. And he talks in his little video that he has on his channel about how good vanilla really makes the recipe. And it really does. So anyway, we added all of our wet ingredients in here to our sugar and butter that we creamed. Now we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of flour. And this is self-rising flour. If you don't have self-rising flour, you're going to have to add about 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder to this, and just a touch of salt. And we're just going to mix this up. This young man that I'm talking about that does the Vanilla Feeds Tomorrow, his name is William, and he is exactly what I'm talking about when I say on here that we all have the ability to be someone else's blessing. He's 15 years old, and he's probably home from school because, you know, nobody was going to school last year. And he knows that there are children in his area who are not only not having dessert, but they didn't even have dinner. And he comes up with a way to help these children, and he has donated well over $100,000 to Second Harvest Food Bank, which is incredible. A 15-year-old boy working in his home. So we really are all in a position to be someone else's blessing. And when we bless other people, God blesses us in return. Luke 6:38 says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For the same measure that ye merit withal, it shall be measured to you again." I cannot wait to see what God does with this young man's life. I am certain that he will be successful in whatever he does, simply because that's the way it works. And it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, because this young man is literally giving away everything he makes now. But God will return that to him at some point in his life. Now, I'm going to add this to a casserole dish. I did wipe a little butter in here. That's generally a good idea anytime you're putting anything in a casserole dish. You don't necessarily have to, but it sure makes cleaning up easier. And we want to put the batter in the bottom. And it doesn't need to be perfectly smooth. I've got a few little butter lumps in there. My milk wasn't super warm. If your milk is warmer, you won't have the little butter lumps, but they're good. So don't worry about it if you do. And now I'm going to put my strawberry, the sugar and the butter and the little bit of vanilla that I added in there. You don't want to stir this in. You want to pour this over top, because cobblers have the batter in the bottom and you add the fruit to the top. And what happens is the fruit kind of runs down in the batter and then it ends up on the bottom. But it flavors the batter as it runs through it. So that's why you do cobblers that way. And then we're going to put this into a 375 degree oven for 40 to 45 minutes. It takes about 40 minutes in my oven. It depends on your oven how long it's going to take. You just want to make sure your batter's done and kind of golden brown on top. So take this to your preheated oven. Now this one has been in the oven for 40 minutes or so, and you can see how the fruit is kind of coming up through the batter, the cake part of it, but the fruit's all in the bottom and the cake is on the top, even though we put the batter in the bottom and the fruit on the top. You want to let this cool about 10 minutes maybe, so that it kind of sets up, and then scoop it out. Serve it with some vanilla ice cream, some fresh whipped cream. If you want to really go crazy, you could put some chocolate syrup on it or something, because chocolate goes well with strawberries. Everybody knows that. But this is a good dessert for summertime because berries are in season. It's good for the wintertime, especially if you're using frozen fruit, and for any special occasion, because it's super easy. And like I said, everybody loves cobbler. It just takes a minute to mix it up. It does take a few minutes to bake it. And you can actually cook cobblers in your Instant Pot and in your crock pots. So if you don't have an oven, or if you don't want to heat the house up, fix this in your crock pot or in your Instant Pot. They all have kind of generic instructions. Just put this recipe in and then look for cobbler instructions for your specific pot, and it'll tell you how long to cook it. So I hope that kind of helps maybe folks that don't want to heat up the house, or folks that, I know not everybody has a working oven. Check out Williams Vanilla Feeds Tomorrow. I am going to put a link in there. If you can't find the link, you can Google Vanilla Feeds Tomorrow and pull that up. This would even make a nice gift. It does come packaged really well. Like I said, it's sealed, and he wraps it up and puts it in a little box. He started his company in 2020, and it is 501c3. It all goes to food banks. He donates every penny, doesn't keep any of it. And he buys his vanilla beans from missionaries in Madagascar. So not only is he giving all the proceeds away, but he's actually supporting missionaries around the world when he purchases what he needs to make the vanilla. This kid really is an inspiration, and if he can do it where he is, you can be somebody else's blessing. Give, and it shall be given unto you. I want to thank y'all for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. I want to wish you all a very blessed Memorial Day, and I want to thank all of you, all of the families who have actually given the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedom. And I want to thank all the veterans who have protected our freedom and have been damaged in some way because of their service, because this is, like I said, our Memorial Day video. Spend this weekend honoring those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and those who have gone on before you. God bless you all. If you haven't already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.